is, of course, not serving their constituents, as does most of the representatives who take, or if not all representatives who take corporate special interest money.
Correct.
You know that we need to be electing more consistently non-corporate representatives to the halls of Congress. So without further ado, Alexandra Hunt, welcome to Generational Change.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. If I had known about all the hate the Eagles would have gotten, I would have worn a different shirt. I would have worn a hat.
Okay, first of all, when I was a little kid, the very first time I flew on an airplane by myself was to go visit my mom's best friend who lived in Philadelphia. And so I loved everything about it. They took Hillary's ice cream. Like, I loved everything about like Philadelphia and the whole thing. And so, and I've always liked the Eagles because I like their helmets. So whatever, I like them. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you're a vegan or not, but what's your top cheesesteak spot? Just so we get that out of the way, because I don't need it anymore.
He always has to ask these
but
questions.
Gino's was the place that if I was ever in Philly, that's where I ended up going.
Oh, don't come here and say that. Don't.
Tell them where it's at.
I really like D'Alessandro's.
D'Alessandro. Okay. Yeah. All right. So you
don't know.
I don't know.
Pat's is very commercial.
Pat's is definitely commercial for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But sorry about that.
It's all good.
We have that.
So first and foremost, tell us about the district. Obviously, we know how gerrymandering works. I would imagine that it's not all of the city of Philadelphia, but what does your district, tell us about the area that you're running in, obviously what it covers and so on. And we have dogs here too.
We have dogs here. It's not
sorry.
No, it's okay. You need to tend to them.
Coda, come here.
What does she want?
You can bring her on.
He there's
wants attention.
Yeah,
you can bring him on. Oh, he's a beauty.
Yeah.
Look at that guy.
Oh, he's so beautiful.
Is he a husky?
He is a husky.
He's beautiful.
Absolutely.
He looks very, like, his eyeliner makes him look very serious. He looks very focused.
He's not. He's so
He's
goofy.
not.
He's very
He looks
goofy.
like he's focused.
Not at all.
Well, if you're on the campaign trail, he becomes everybody's best friend. So that's never a bad thing.
Oh, yeah.
Get a lot of attention that way. Only problem with huskies, a hell of a lot of hair. A hell of a lot of hair.
And they talk all the time, as you can see.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, they are a howling dog, but in a cute, very, very cute way.
Yes.
Very cute way.
So never apologize for the doggos. I won't.
No, don't apologize for dogs, but just tell us about your district, like what it looks like, what part of Philly we're talking about.
We are talking about, so it is most of Philadelphia, but it cuts out the Northeast, which is PA2. And actually it cuts right at Broad. So it's the west side of Broad and Northwest, West Philly, Southwest Philly, Center City, Old City, and then it runs along Passyunk Ave, which is where Gino's and Pat's is. And
tourist places.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's PA03.
Okay.
So when somebody tells you that it's a fool's errand to be running in this district, what do you tell them?
Well, explain the demographics to people about this district, because it is very interesting given you, so I think tell people what the demographics are of that area.
So PA03 is 54% Black. It is 57% women. It is a pretty even spread across age. We do have a little bit of a younger majority because there's a lot of colleges and universities here.
Yes,
and then it's the number one large impoverished city in America. And then it's the second poorest district in the state.
Okay. So as somebody who is clearly not Black, you're dealing with a district that is you're not the majority. So how is that running as a candidate in that district, and especially with somebody so entrenched?
Well, it's actually pretty interesting, and it's always interesting hearing what people from outside the district have to say, because inside the district it's a totally different temperature, and the temperature is this guy isn't that popular. He hasn't done much for the people. And I've actually been, in my opinion, better received by potential Black voters than potential white voters. But it's a constant conversation of leaning into, I'm a white woman. This is my platform. What do you think? and then we just talk about it. And the platform that I'm running on is really what's important, and that's what's getting people involved.
No, I'm glad to hear it. I mean, it's definitely like a learning curve, especially with older Blacks and especially with older Black women. And that is a demographic that is very, they're the least receptive to change. If you were to break down demographics, like that's really difficult, that's a hard group. And if you're doing well with that group, then that's a really good sign for you.
Alex, what would you, yeah. No, go ahead. I apologize.
Well, I think that one of the big issues that I have with my opponent is his complacency and the fact that I am working so hard to talk to people and to listen to people that already gives me a foot in the door and to start earning the trust. But it really boils down to earning trust. And that's what this whole campaign is about.
Yeah.
In terms of, connecting with voters, we all know that big city politics is a very, very tricky game. What has been the reception communicating with various organizations in the city? Philly had a very large Bernie movement, from what I remember. So I know that there's a lot of different organizations like, Our Revolution, DSA, groups like that. But then you also have, Philly's a very labor strong city. So in terms of connections with, let's say, various, union halls and groups like that, what's been the reception there? Because in terms of what Jen experienced running down here, that's where there was a lot of stonewalling. Do you find you're experiencing the same thing, or has that been something that's been somewhat positive?
With left-leaning organizations, they've already had their eye on my opponent and have been looking they're excited that there is someone running against him and giving him a big challenge. As for unions, I am walking on eggshells to navigate that. And I come from a working class background. My parents are both teachers. And so I have that background that I really believe in unions and I know how much we need them, but it's still just, you have to be respectful of people who have been doing this work for so long and talking to this person, and this person sends you to that person. And that's kind of how you navigate the unions. That's what I'm currently working on right now is the unions.
What has been your experience with the Democratic establishment there? Like, how is that going for you? Because, you are challenging a sitting Democrat. It's not like they're all going to be all excited. And so, I mean, so tell me about that experience.
Oh, that's awful.
They're so democratic. They love the concept of democracy and new ideas. And yeah, they're so into it. So how have they received you?
Well, so in Philadelphia, there's pretty much a big machine, and the machine works together, and there's a two-headed dragon heading the machine, and one of them is my opponent. One of them is a state senator that I will not name right now. And the machine does not like me at all. And
No.
The machine is very, very much aware of our campaign and doing what it can to push us out of running. But however, there's some gaps in the machine where, yes, they're a tight knit group and they're not willing to let outsiders in, but the platform that I'm running on is so important for the people that they're willing to listen a little bit. They're willing to engage in conversation a little bit, not about being against my opponent or being supportive of me and my candidacy, but if we're trying to figure out how are we going to get certain legislation passed and certain pieces of the platform, they are giving a listening ear.
So let's talk about the platform. Let's talk about the issues. I mean, obviously, I know, because for anybody who doesn't know, with Catch Fire, in order for somebody, it's crazy to me. Like, we're very selective. I mean, in order for somebody to even qualify, you have to first agree to 21 policy points, basically, which are all the things that everybody that we talk about and then some. So then you first have to get through that. So I know that where you stand on a lot of things, but talk about what your key, like the main things for you, that are most important for you, and especially like even you can make it specific to your district. Like, what are the key issues?
The key issues, and I'm matching my district in what we need as a community. The key issues are Medicare for all, universal health care, a Green New Deal, and an environmental justice. And in a Green New Deal, there's things like a federal jobs guarantee, which is huge in Philly. As I said, the #1 large impoverished city in America. There's housing for all, which is huge in Philly. We have a rising unhoused population and at risk of seeing a lot more. So those two policy points are very important. And then our school system, our public education system, has seen a divestment. So education reform is major, and that ties into criminal justice reform, which is something that is very important to me and a big part of my background. The same thing with education. So the unmarrying of the school to prison pipeline and building a school to opportunity pipeline is something that a lot of people in Philadelphia want to have a conversation about. And then lastly, economic justice with a living wage, again, a jobs guarantee, and reparations.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that basically sums it up. I mean, that's what we need. And really that's pretty universal. And the only difference is some cities are just worse than others. Some cities have more population than others, but everybody across the board is what we're like, that we're all talking to. It's the same things. Nobody has decent housing because nobody can afford to live on the wages that they're paid. And that's everywhere. So obviously we're going to have housing problem everywhere. I mean, it's like everywhere there's a problem with this.
And Philadelphia is a great example of a city where there is a lot of gentrification. That is something that has really transpired, especially in South Philly. There's a lot of problems all throughout the city.
You might like our guest tonight, what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Gentrification.
Well, we're talking, I mean, it's Pastor Mike McBride, and we are going to be talking about, I mean, he's a lot about gun violence in vulnerable communities, racial justice, over incarceration. Really, that's what he's all about. And another thing is that I chair the Broward League of Women Voters Criminal Justice Committee, and we're doing a panel discussion on incarceration versus education at the end of August. And I'll send you the link. Like if you wanted to check it out, it'll be really cool. So, I mean, like I feel like I'm constantly talking about this issue, but I don't think people realize how important it is.
I'm right there with you. I fully agree.
So in terms of building your coalition, because obviously it's going to take quite a bit, what do you see as being the type of coalitions? Like you said, you obviously have to walk very carefully with the unions, but obviously you want to be able to make as many connections through labor as you possibly can. Obviously, this is a long-term process. The election, I believe, is next spring. Is that when the primary is?
May 17th.
May 17th. Okay. So in terms of building that coalition, obviously having a national following is big, but one of the advantages that I think candidates have who run in urban city districts is there's a big degree of closeness in terms of the amount of geography you need to cover. Right. So you can really hit a lot of voters, especially the ones that you need within, a few blocks.
Like the opposite of Ava. When she was running in Arizona, it was like she might as well have been running for Senate. Like that's how it seemed. That district was crazy.
Well, a state that only has, I think, like 4 congressional seats. Yeah, that definitely would make sense. And maybe sort of like on a random note, but, there are also candidates running for the U.S. Senate, and sometimes, especially the ones that may be on the progressive side, kind of catching that wave is also important in terms of building that coalition. So, would be curious to hear how you see that unfolding at this point.
The coalition building?
Mm-hmm.
We have seen, it's been interesting to see who's first drawn to our campaign, and we see some hardcore lefties or leftists. That's great. But we also, based on our platform, we've drawn in sex workers or former sex workers, a lot of women who care about just women's rights. We've drawn in people who care about disability rights because they say that candidates don't often run on that. And we've also attracted a lot of people who are interested in justice for the LGBTQIA plus community. So that's where we've been building, and yeah, I think it's awesome. There's a lot of diversity who we're pulling in, but and we're also pulling in formerly incarcerated people and hearing their stories. So that's been wonderful.
What's your laws there regarding formerly incarcerated people and voting?
They can vote, but I think that there needs to be a lot of empowerment involved, and that's where we come in as community members, and people are reentering society, is that we empower people with, you absolutely have that power and that right to vote, but also tell your story, and you're welcome here and welcome home. And Philly's pretty good about that.
Right. I mean, I don't think people realize, I mean, Florida just 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago, passed that formerly incarcerated individuals can even get their right to vote back at all. Florida actually had a lifetime ban and was one of, there's only, I think, another couple of states that still do have a lifetime ban. And so they still have to jump through ridiculous amounts of hoops. And not only that, but they're also subjected to, people don't realize how vulnerable a community that is, because we have a state senator that we voted in this state, a $15 minimum wage. Immediately thereafter, there's a senator that introduces legislation to take certain people off of that list that they call hard to hire people. And that includes the elderly, teenagers, and formerly incarcerated, and take them out of that, even though our state voted for an amendment to create a $15 minimum wage. That's what we're dealing with here.
I mean, when you talk about regression, it's
like
of the highest.
Those are the people that need more help, not less help. It's crazy to me. And again, I don't understand how people don't constantly berate and go after these people in public places. I really don't understand it.
No, 1,000%. And, you did bring up sex work, and obviously that's the considered the lightning rod issue, because there are people who obviously look at your past and think that that's something to judge you on. But the truth is, most people who are progressive and even people who are libertarian are like, who cares? You're not hurting anybody. This is your means of making an income, and that's it. And tons of people do it. I don't know how much of an impact that would have in your particular district. I would imagine more so in a very, evangelical conservative type of district, it would play a role, even though it shouldn't. But how would you say that the demographics so far, the overall electorate has viewed finding this information out about your views, not just on sex work, your experience working in the industry, and whether or not that is something that they feel is necessary to, let's say, judge you on, as far as whether or not you are capable of being a congressional representative?
I've been judged for sure. It really depends who we're talking about. If we're talking about people, the wealthier people in the district, then I've been judged. And there's a big question mark of, is she qualified? Can she even do this? Just because I have what they would consider. And I've worked as a server as well. And just there's stigma associated with both these jobs that we're not capable of that high quality thought or putting together.
We were just having a conversation with my grandfather, who's in his 90s, and we talked about, the one thing from the boomer generation is that they never looked down upon people
for different jobs.
As long as you had a job,
right?
That's what mattered.
There wasn't like, if you were the cleaning guy, you don't deserve to make a living wage. Like, that wasn't a thing. And you had people that were able to have a family of 4 on one income, and it could have been a working income. That was something that existed.
Today, it's like, well, your job's not good enough. It's
you
like,
don't
have
deserve
you ever
a living wage, because what you do isn't of value.
And if you've never worked in the service industry, regardless of what
people
that
in
is,
sex work, it's very valuable. I'm just saying.
No, well, a lot of people are uptight and unhappy, so
whatever.
They try to.
I was a Hooters waitress, and most people know that. And not that that is the same thing, and not that that's sex work, but I got crap for that at the time. I was told by someone in college that I was contributing to the rape of women.
Wow.
And I said to her, okay, so regularly normal, typical minded people, they go to a Hooters, they see the waitress, and then they go, yeah, I think I'm going to go rape somebody tonight. No, that's not how that happens. Like, that's just not how that happens. I always feel about it. For me, I'm extremely libertarian about anything having to do with what people do that are consenting adults. It sometimes makes me sad that there's women that are in a position where they feel like that's the best option. And the reality is, for a lot of women, that is the best option. And that's what makes me sad. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that needs to be the best option for people. Like I that does, it makes me feel sad about that.
Mr. 13FNG, if that's what your name goes by, thank you so much for your generous contribution. And it's true. Candidates like Alexandra give me hope that the system can change.
Yes.
We need more socially minded candidates like her. Thanks, Jen, for your courage and support. And I think that is a great place where we can wind down the conversation because, as you know, one of the things that's very important as it relates to building that coalition is understanding how vital it is to be able to get people into positions like precinct committee captain, in a position where within the party infrastructure, they can actually assist in making sure that your election is fair, not necessarily trying to give you an advantage. We all know that one of the big tricks of the trade when it comes to elections, especially at the local level, is that one of the reasons why these long-term incumbents stay in power for so long is because they have these proxies all over the place. Being able to put in people who are supporting you obviously will go a very long way. And I'd like to think that that's something that you're definitely focused on.
Yes. And we have wards and committee people in Philly, but yep, same thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's where really what it comes down to. The future does belong to us, Alex. As millennials, I think it's really important that people understand that we're not going away. Medicare for all, it's going to happen. It's just a question of when it happens.
How many people are going to have to die before it happens?
Well,
that's really the question. How many people are they going to let die before they give us health care?
Well, in our opinion, I actually think that the state to your northeast is where it's going to happen. I think New York is where it's going to break through. I really think that there's a great chance for the New York Health Act.
We're getting kind of into that. We're going to be pushing the New York Health Act quite a bit because we think it's sort of like it could be a domino situation.
Well, that's how they did it in Canada. I mean, if you could pass it in one province and you could do it in one state that has the right population, even a state like Pennsylvania could handle it.
And ultimately, it needs to be a federal thing. But in any event, it's like, I think that's right now where we see the closest place coming to it crossing the line. So,
Yeah, 100%. And as long as there are candidates like you, especially continuing the progressive, the Bernie message, if you will, especially in the city of brotherly love, Lord knows that it needs it. And you're certainly doing an amazing job. And we certainly hope to have you back. I think what we're going to do ultimately going forward is we need to do more candidate panels.
Yeah, we're going to start doing
candidate panels.
We've just been doing we've been far enough out from most people's elections that they come on, we do a 20-minute talk, we do chat, and then we figure as we get closer, we'll have people back on. So, I mean, but I think he's right. I think we need to do,
and we all need to be lifting each other up. One of the mistakes that ultimately ends up happening is, we're not pollinating, as Jen likes to say. And we definitely want to do more of that. And it's obviously very important that you get your message out there because Philly is really a progressive city. And it doesn't have a progressive leadership council right now. So we got to change that.
So give it. Tell everyone your
website. Where can we find you?
Yes. huntforcongress.com. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And it's Alexandra Hunt for Congress on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And then Twitter is A Hunt for Congress.
Okay.
That is super awesome. Guys, give Alex a follow, give her a phone bank session, give her
sign up for
a donation,
become
a contributor.
I'm a big fan of everybody taking their money and allocating it to everybody accordingly.
Yes, and even though we get crap for saying this, don't give your money to the party, give it to the candidate because that's where
it's bad enough that we have to use Act Blue. Don't do it any other way.
So that is your donation to the party, quite frankly.
Oh, exactly. Take your fee and be gone.
For real. And so with that said, we really appreciate you coming on this evening, and we definitely look forward to having you back again soon.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.